For this week's Touch Basin's Hole, we're joined by a Korean filmmaker based in Hawaii who joined us on the show last year to discuss her work, Words of Wisdom from the Rainbow State, a docu-series on the legacy of the first Korean immigrants to Hawaii and the US. She joins us again today to talk about a new project called Songs of Love that once again looks back at the history of Korean immigration, but beautifully intertwined with the power of music. To talk about the new series, we're pleased to have Ms. Jinyoung Lee join us in the studio now. Ms. Lee, hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I remember, having a talk with you just last year around this time of the year, and it's so great to be here, to talk with you in person.
Yes, last time we spoke via video call, but it's great to have you here with us in the studio today. It's wonderful that you're able to stop by. It's, as we said, been over a year since we spoke to you, since that docu-series, Words of Wisdom from the Rainbow State. How have you been since then? What have you been doing?
It was like a roller coaster ride, seriously. It's been, quite a ride since we last talked in January. Life has been a mix of like exploring creativity in my own way and also making meaningful connections.
Sure, and obviously you've been working on this new documentary series called Songs of Love, which we're here to talk about today. I believe it has a unique approach as well to exploring the immigration history and the story. Can you tell us more about it?
Sure, yeah. I tried to take a fresh angle on Korean immigrant history. It has 3 short stories, and in each episode, we take you on a journey through the unique experiences of music and through the eyes of some amazing musicians that, you'll be listening later on. We're diving into the personal stories of these Korean immigrants.
Right, so it's about the stories of these Korean immigrants, the story and the history of Korean immigrants in the US, but merging it with music. I think that's a very interesting idea. Can you tell us a bit more about that side of it as well, especially some of the musicians you worked with? Because I know there are some very highly esteemed musicians in the documentary as well.
The idea of mixing music with the documentary came from a simple wish to make the stories more real and emotional. I believe music can speak louder than words, and it can really connect people in a deeper level. And, curating the musicians for each episode was like, putting a puzzle together. And we looked for artists who not only had incredible musical talents, but also a deep connection with the experiences of the Korean diaspora. So I was really lucky to, be connected with these wonderful, amazing artists. And I'm just so glad and I feel privileged to be able to create a piece like this.
Yes, so one of the musicians who features in the series is the Grammy and Emmy Award winning violist, Richard Young O'Neill, who we had on the show as well previously, actually.
I see.
So he's familiar to us. I believe he's in the 2nd episode of this 3-part series, right? I believe we have a clip from that episode, an audio clip from that episode. Let's take a listen now. That's Richard Young O'Neill, and I believe he is performing Danny Boy, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that? About how first he got involved in the project, and also about the song choice as well, which I find very interesting.
Young O'Neill, as you might already know, his mom was a Korean war orphan. So she was adopted to the American family when she was little, and Youngjae O'Neill is the 2nd generation Korean. And so for me, to have him in this film, I thought, he will deliver the story very well, with the background that he has his own. The story of the second episode is about a picture bride whose name is Im Ok-sun. It's a true story. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of picture bride. Do you?
Yes, I do understand. It is essentially the modern day equivalent would be mail order brides, I understand, right?
Yeah.
But this is something that happened in the early 1900s. Korean immigrants who went to the US, especially Hawaii, men initially,
Right.
but then because they wanted wives, they needed wives. They essentially had arranged sort of system, a business essentially,
Right.
where they brought women over
Right.
to have them married off essentially, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you got it really right. So for women who really wanted to pursue a life that's different from Korea, back then you can imagine that they were having such a hard time. Korea was really poor. And there were so limited, opportunities for women. So these women who got to know about this opportunity of going to Hawaii to marry somebody that they haven't met, are really a brave women. And one of the picture brides who went to Hawaii, so she's like one of those 750 Korean women who went to Hawaii as a picture bride, and she had such a kind of hard life, but she left great legacy behind, and I wanted to celebrate her life, the dedication and the love that she shared with us. And Yongjae Onil was the perfect artist, I thought, who can play a music for this documentary. And the reason why I chose Danny Boy for this specific episode was because, Danny Boy is music, that was written as a, so this parents, when she was sending her son to the war in, Ireland.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it was, it's got a similar kind of feeling to the situation where Lee Mok-sun was going to Hawaii.
Sure.
Basically, in Lee Mok-sun's mother's point of view. So I wanted to kind of, resonate those feelings, through music. And Richard Yongjae Onil played in the ocean that was near the area where first Lee Mok-sun, stepped into Hawaii back in 1905.
Right, so Danny Boy, I believe it is a traditional song that depicts the heartbreaking emotions of parents who send their kids, their sons especially, off to war, off to battlefields. So there's obviously parallels there with Korea's painful history.
Right.
So that's a remarkable choice. It is beautifully performed as well, as you can hear. As a filmmaker, it must be interesting because you want to obviously bring an educational aspect to the documentary, to inform people, to let people know and shed light about some of these issues. But at the same time, you want to make it appealing for viewers on an just an entertainment level as well, to bring entertainment value to a documentary, right?
Yeah, right. Really, that's a key point, in terms of filmmaking. The history content itself holds already immense educational value, I think. But then, my aim goes a step further, which is like I'm always striving to present this information in a manner that's not just informative, but, genuinely captivating, really interesting enough for people, especially the younger generation, to watch until the end of the film, right? So I always try to look for a way to make it more entertaining, interesting. And it's about crafting a narrative that entices viewers to stay, engaged. And for Songs of Love, I was able to achieve a little bit of that through this great music, I think.
Sure, and I think that's obviously what's different about this project compared to your last one, although there are similar themes from Words of Wisdom, where you talk about the immigration story as well. What do you think you perhaps learned or incorporated from that work into Songs of Love as well?
Yeah, right. Thanks for the good question. It's actually connected in a way because the experience of diving into the lives of our ancestors through Words of Wisdom project was amazing. But then I started to think about, how to reach wider audience, instead of just few people who are interested in the voices of these descendants. And, in fact, like one of the stories I created for Songs of Love was from my first film, The Words of Wisdom, but then this time through music. So I think we were able to reach wider audience. And a thread from my first film, Words of Wisdom, specifically the Gary Park is one of the interviewees from The Words of Wisdom and shared a touching tale about his own grandmother. And she is the picture bride that we just talked about. And her story resonated really deeply with me when Gary was talking about that, about her at the Words of Wisdom. So, we brought her story to life using animation and music.
Sure.
So it was all started from Words of Wisdom, but, now we have Songs of Love with that story.
It seems like this is something very important to you, this idea of sort of preserving cultural heritage, and this, especially the stories of Korean immigration, that history. How do you envision this latest project, Songs of Love? How do you think that perhaps contributes to what you want to do, that mission that you want to do to preserve the story?
Yeah, you might think Hawaii is all about romance and beauty. It's such a beautiful place, and honeymooners love going to Hawaii. But I wanted to reveal the reality beyond the enchanting exterior of Hawaii, those who lived and passed away, and those whose sacrifices shaped our lives there, the Korean immigrants. And, history isn't just about these renowned figures, right? And,
Sure.
And it's the untold stories of everyday individuals that genuinely form life and history, I believe. So my goal was to convey the stories of those individuals who lead their own profound lives. And also, if I could say this, I am hoping that, just like how our ancestors were accepted and embraced in the new land, I hope that Koreans living in Korea also embrace the foreigners, when they try to settle down in our, in Korea.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure, hopefully, yes, we can learn lessons from the Korean immigration story and have that reflect back here in Korean society
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
Finally, we are running out of time, but what are your plans next for this series? I understand you have a Kickstarter involved as well, but you are looking to have this shown in film festivals. You want to make it into perhaps a feature film rather than a docuseries as well, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we are excited to share this, Songs of Love as a one feature-length story at the end of the year. But also because it's a 3-part stories, we usually play with and we share it with schools or individuals who want to share with their group and all that. So through the screening and different opportunities, we just like to reach wider audience. And Kickstarter is one of the ways that we are doing it to achieve that goal. And sure, we're after financial help, but it's also about forming a community who see the value in these narratives, and we want to create a space for people who, like us, are really into storytelling and preserving culture.
Well, it sounds like another wonderful and meaningful work, and we wish you luck on the project moving forward as well. We'll have to leave it there. We've been talking to filmmaker Jinyoung Lee about Songs of Love. Thank you once again for your time today.
Thank you so much.